Family drama escalated after I refused to babysit for my sister. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My sister's text said I'd abandoned her children forever. That's the line that blinked on my cracked phone screen while I was on my lunch break, hunched over in the stockroom at work with a cold sandwich and exactly 14 minutes to breathe. I'm Jenny, 28, assistant manager at a big box store where weekends don't exist, and family time is what you watch other people post on Instagram after closing shifts. For the past 6 years, I've also been something else. My sister Jenna's free, on-call, no-notice babysitter. Girls' nights, hair appointments, urgent work events, whatever. If she needed to disappear, I was the one who showed up with snacks and Netflix. I missed dates, canceled plans, and traded sleep for her emergencies so many times that my friends started calling me Aunt Nanny as a joke. Only this time, I'd said no. She wanted me to watch the kids on the one night I'd finally worked up the nerve to do something for myself. A small birthday thing my coworkers had planned, plus a late screening of a movie I'd been talking about for months. I told her, politely, that I couldn't. I even suggested a sitter service and offered to split the cost if money was tight. 10 minutes later came the barrage. Missed calls, then voice messages, then the text that made my stomach flip. "You've abandoned your family for some stupid movie," she wrote, followed by 3 crying emojis and 1 dagger. Then another message, this one from our mom, Carol, popped up over it like a judgmental halo. "Family comes first, Jenny," mom's text said. "You're breaking your sister's heart." I stared at the screen, my sandwich untouched, realizing this wasn't just about tonight. This was about every yes I'd ever given them. Every time I'd shoved my own life to the side so Jenna's could run smoother. Every time mom had called that sacrifice what good daughters do. In that humming stockroom, with fluorescent lights buzzing and my manager calling my name from the doorway, I understood that saying no once meant my entire family was about to put me on trial. I had no idea this single text would burn my whole life. People talk about middle child syndrome, but in my family, it was more like built-in backup parent. Jenna was the delicate one, the artistic soul, who couldn't handle stress. Our younger brother pieced out to another state as soon as he turned 18. That left me and my mom's favorite sentence. "Jenny can help." I was 12 the first time mom asked me to keep an eye on baby Lily so Jenna could shower. By 14, I was doing full evenings while Jenna rested her nerves, and mom worked an extra shift. Back then, it felt kind of nice. Lily's warm weight on my chest, cartoons humming in the background, mom calling me her little lifesaver. It stopped feeling nice when I realized it never stopped. In college, I commuted because it wouldn't be fair to move out when Jenna still needed support. When I landed my first retail job, Jenna celebrated by asking if my schedule was flexible enough for family, which turned out to mean, "Can you work around my social life?" If I ever hesitated, mom pulled out the big guns. "Your sister isn't as strong as you," Carol would say, lowering her voice like we were in a hospital. "You know how anxious she gets. She's a mother. She has so much on her plate. You can go out any time." "Sure," I'd say, swallowing my annoyance. "It's just one night." Spoiler, it was never just one night. A few months before the text that started all this, I canceled an actual first date because Jenna forgot to mention she'd promised Lily's class she'd chaperone a movie night. I showed up so she wouldn't look bad. She came home tipsy, glitter on her cheeks, and barely remembered to say thanks. When I told mom about the date I'd missed, she just sighed. "Sweetheart, there will be other boys," she said. "But your niece only gets one childhood, and Jenna can't do this alone." It was like my feelings were tiny, optional accessories to Jenna's big, dramatic motherhood story. I didn't know that missed date was practice for a much bigger no. If you asked Jenna, she'd swear she always checks with me first, but that's not how it feels on my end. On my end, it's the sound of her minivan door sliding open outside my apartment, followed by a quick knock and 2 small bodies barreling past me before I've even said hello. "Thanks again, you're a lifesaver," Jenna calls, already backing down the stairs in heels. "They've eaten, bedtime's at 8, you know the drill." "Jenna, I have to be at work at 6 tomorrow." I protest, holding one kid's backpack and the other's stuffed unicorn. She laughs, tossing her hair. "Then you'll go to bed early. You love them, don't you?" And she's gone before I can answer. The first red flag that something was off didn't come from Jenna. It came from Lily's teacher. I was picking her up one afternoon because Jenna was stuck in traffic, and the teacher smiled at me like we were old friends. "Jenny, right? I'm so glad you could make it again," she said. "Lily talks about how you're the one who always comes to meetings." Always. I blinked. I'd been there twice. Then a neighbor, Mrs. Davis, stopped me in the hallway one evening. "You're such a good mom," she said, nodding toward the kids trailing behind me. "I see you with them all the time." "I'm their aunt," I corrected, forcing a laugh. "Oh." Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Well, you're certainly around more than their parents." Her words stuck to me like static. That night, when Jenna texted, "Can you take them tomorrow? Mark and I desperately need a date night," I felt something cold crawl up my spine. I told myself everyone was exaggerating, that Jenna was just going through a rough patch, and I happened to be the handy aunt next door. Still, lying awake in my small, cluttered bedroom with cartoon theme songs stuck in my head, I kept replaying that teacher's words, "You're the one who always comes," and wondered when exactly I'd become the default parent on all the forms. I didn't realize yet that those casual comments were my first warnings. The can't miss night that blew everything up landed on a Saturday I'd been circling in my planner for months. My coworkers had finally bullied me into letting them throw a small birthday thing after close. Cheap cake in the break room. Drinks afterward at a bar that stayed open late enough for night shift people. I even bought a new dress, something not immediately labeled comfortable for babysitting. At noon, while I was straightening a display of clearance towels, Jenna called. "Hey, you free tonight?" she asked, skipping hello entirely. I could hear music and one of the kids whining in the background. "Not really," I said. "It's my birthday thing, remember? I texted you about it." She exhaled dramatically. "Right that. Well, Mark's boss invited us to this networking dinner. It's huge for his promotion. We literally cannot bring the kids. Can you just this once?" Just this once. My jaw clenched. "Jenna, I already requested the night off," I said. "People are planning stuff. I can't cancel again." There was a beat of silence. Then her voice sharpened. "So you're choosing some bar over your own niece and nephew? Over Mark's career?" At family dinner the night before, she'd already warmed up her audience. "Jenny's so lucky," she told our parents, laughing. "No kids, no real responsibilities. Must be nice to have so much free time." Mom tooted and told me not to roll my eyes. Now, Jenna didn't even wait for my answer. She hung up, then dropped a bomb in the family group chat. A long paragraph about how devastated she was that I refused to help on one important night after years of us supporting her. By the time I checked my phone at break, there were 15 messages. Carol had chimed in with, "Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family, Jenny." And even my dad, who barely texts, added a thumbs down. My stomach dropped when I saw Jenna's last line. "If anything happens because we couldn't go tonight, it's on you." I had no idea she'd already started telling everyone I'd ruined them. I didn't answer right away. I finished my shift in a fog, mechanically asking customers about store cards while my phone buzzed nonstop in my apron pocket. When I finally clocked out, I sat in my car and typed the longest text I'd ever sent Jenna. "I love the kids," I wrote, "but I'm not available tonight. I told you that days ago. You need to find another solution. I can't keep canceling my life every time something comes up." I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then hit send before I could chicken out. The reply came 3 seconds later. "Wow," she wrote. "You're selfish. Good to know where we rank." A screenshot of our messages appeared in the group chat, stripped of context and dressed up with crying emojis. Mom immediately called. "Jenny," Carol said, skipping hello. Her voice trembled with weaponized sadness. "Your sister is in tears. Do you really want to be the reason she misses this opportunity? You know how hard marriage has been for her. Mark finally has a chance to move up." "Mom, I work 6 days a week," I said, gripping the steering wheel. "I never ask you for anything. I made plans. I need one night." "Young people nowadays," she sighed. "So individualistic. When I was your age, I watched your cousins every weekend and never complained." "You also had a husband and a house," I shot back. "I have a studio and a futon." There was a long, frosty pause. "If you walk away from your family tonight," she said quietly, "don't be surprised if they walk away from you." I hung up shaking. A few minutes later, Mark's name flashed on my screen. For a second I thought, maybe he'll be reasonable. Instead, his text read, not getting involved, but this really puts Jenna in a bad spot. No happy birthday, no we'll figure it out, just a quiet little shove of blame into my lap. I sat there in the parking lot, half an hour late to my own celebration, wondering if one boundary was really worth losing my mother's approval and my only real connection to those kids. I didn't realize they were already planning to punish me for years. The next morning, my phone looked like it had been through a war. Overnight, cousins I hadn't spoken to in months had weighed in with vague, moralizing texts. "Hey, just checking in," one wrote. "Heard things are tense. Remember, kids don't forget who was there for them." Another, "Not taking sides, but Jenna's really hurting. Maybe apologize?" No one asked if I was okay. No one asked why I'd finally said no. Screenshots of my refusal, cropped to make it look like I'd snapped for no reason, circulated in the family chat. Jenna posted a sad selfie to Facebook with a caption about some people choosing partying over being there when it matters. Carol commented a string of broken heart emojis and praying for peace. At work, I kept checking my phone between customers, half expecting an apology that never came. Instead, I got a voicemail from Lily. "Aunt Jenny," her small voice said, thick with confusion. "Mom said you don't love us enough to help anymore. Did we do something bad?" I had to lock myself in the employee bathroom so my coworkers wouldn't see me cry. That night, my best friend Nia came over with takeout. "You look like you got hit by a bus," she said gently, kicking off her shoes. I word vomited the whole story while she listened, eyebrows climbing higher with every new screenshot. "Girl," she said finally, "this isn't normal. They're acting like you're a childcare subscription they forgot to pay for." I wiped my face with the sleeve of my hoodie. "But the kids," I whispered. "If I don't help, they're the ones who suffer." "And if you keep helping like this, who suffers?" Nia asked. "Because it looks a lot like you. Also, if Jenna is willing to twist the story that hard online, what else is she willing to twist?" I thought of Mrs. Davis's comment, of the teacher assuming I was the one who always came, of Lily's confused little voice on my voicemail. Something ugly and sour rose in my chest, heavier than guilt. I hadn't yet asked what Jenna was telling people when I wasn't around. 2 weeks of cold shoulders followed. Jenna stopped asking me to babysit, which should have felt like relief, but instead felt like someone had slammed a door on my face and on the kids. Carol answered my calls with clipped politeness or not at all. The group chat went suspiciously quiet whenever I typed anything longer than a thumbs up. I told myself, fine. They finally got what they wanted. No more burden, Jenny. Let them figure it out. Then the school called me. "Hi, is this Jennifer Collins?" a woman asked. "This is Mrs. Ramirez from Lincoln Elementary. We have your niece Lily here in the office, and we can't reach her mother. You're listed as primary emergency contact." Primary. The word hit me like a slap. I left work early, heart pounding, and rushed to the school. Lily sat in the front office chair, swinging her legs, face blotchy from crying. "Aunt Jenny," she said, running into my arms. "Mom was supposed to pick me up, but she never came." Mrs. Ramirez frowned kindly. "We tried your sister, but the number went to voicemail. Good thing you're always there for them." Always there. I signed the release form with shaky hands and glanced down at the paper. Under parent/guardian, Jenna's name. Under primary emergency contact, my name, my number, my address. On the walk back to my car, Lily chattered about a special grown-ups party her mom and Mark were going to that night. She said if anything happened, you'd come get us, Lily said. "Because you always do." My throat tightened. When we reached Jenna's building, Mrs. Davis was outside watering her plants. She gave me a small smile. "Rough day?" she asked. "School couldn't reach Jenna," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "They called me instead." Mrs. Davis hesitated, then lowered her watering can. "Honey, this isn't the first time," she murmured. "Last week the younger one waited in the hallway with me for an hour. He said Mommy told him, if anything's wrong, Aunt Jenny will come. But when I called you, you said you didn't know they were here." I remembered that day, Jenna texting that the kids were fine with a neighbor for a minute while she ran downstairs, which I'd pictured as a quick errand, not a disappearing act. That's when suspicion finally grew louder than my excuses. Once you notice one crack, you start seeing them everywhere. The next week, I asked my manager for a morning off for a family matter and took Lily to school myself. After drop-off, I lingered in the hallway and caught Mrs. Ramirez between classes. "Can I ask you something?" I said. How often do you have to call me instead of Jenna? She looked uncomfortable, glancing toward the office. I don't want to overstep, she said, but there have been several times this semester. We assumed you had some kind of custody arrangement. No, I said a little too quickly. I'm just the aunt. On my day off, I happened to run into Mark in the parking lot of their building. He was loading the kids into the car, dark circles under his eyes. Hey, I said, forcing brightness. Everything okay? School called me last week. Mark winced. Yeah, sorry about that. Jenna was tied up. You know how she gets with planning things. He avoided my eyes, buckling Lily in too fast. Does she always put my number down as the first contact? I asked. He rubbed the back of his neck. Look, Jenny, you're the one who always shows up. It just made sense. Even after she told everyone I abandoned them? I asked quietly. He flinched like I'd slapped him, but didn't answer. Nia, being Nia, suggested I start writing things down. Dates, times, who called you, what they said. She insisted over FaceTime. If your family is rewriting the story in public, you need your own receipts. So I did. I opened a note on my phone and started logging everything. March 3rd, picked up Lily because Jenna stuck at salon. March 12th, neighbor called about kids waiting in hallway. April 5th, school called emergency contact, me again. I also messaged Jenna's old co-worker, Tasha, who used to babysit sometimes. Hey, random question, I wrote. Did Jenna ever tell you I was watching the kids when I wasn't? Tasha replied almost instantly. OMG, yes, she wrote. She'd say Jenny's got them so she didn't have to leave early. I always thought you knew. Seeing it all written out, I realized this wasn't forgetfulness, it was strategy. The what of Jenna's behavior finally snapped into focus on a rainy Thursday. I was closing at the store when an unknown number called 3 times in a row. On the 4th, I answered, half annoyed. A tight-voiced woman introduced herself as MS. Cole, the school counselor. Jenny, I'm so sorry to bother you at work, she said. But there was a small incident today, and your number is listed as the responsible adult. My chest went cold. What kind of incident? She explained that Lily's little brother, Max, had wandered out of the after-school program's side gate when no one came to pick him up. A delivery driver spotted him near the parking lot entrance and brought him back. He's fine, she emphasized, but it could have been very serious. When we called your sister, she said you were supposed to get them. I leaned against a stack of shoe boxes, the world tilting. No one told me. I said, I'm at work. I wasn't scheduled to pick them up. There was a pause on the line. This isn't the first time we've had confusion about who's responsible, Miss Cole said gently. Maybe it would help to clarify things in writing. After we hung up, I sat on an overturned crate in the stockroom and scrolled through Jenna's texts. Sure enough, there it was, a casual message from that morning. You around later? Might need you. Followed by a winky face. Nothing about a definite pickup. Nothing like consent. I called her, my hands shaking. She answered on the second ring, music pounding in the background. Why is the school telling me Max almost walked into traffic? I demanded. Oh my God, calm down, Jenna snapped. They're so dramatic. He was inside the gate. And anyway, I told you I might need you. Might need is not the same as you are responsible for my children's lives today, I said. You told the school I was picking them up. So what? She shot back. You always act like you're their second mom. I figured you'd step up like usual instead of being petty. Petty. That word lodged in my throat like glass. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back and added another line to my growing list. May 19th. Max left unattended. School told I was the pickup adult without my knowledge. That was when my trust finally snapped instead of just bending. The next Sunday, Carol invited me over for coffee, which in our house meant intervention. Her living room smelled like the same vanilla candle she'd been buying since I was a kid. Family photos lined the walls. Jenna in her wedding dress, Lily's first day of school, Max as a baby, like a shrine to everyone's life but mine. Mom handed me a mug and sat across from me, smoothing her skirt. Your sister is very upset, she began. I'm upset, I said. The school counselor called me about Max almost getting hurt. Jenna told them I was supposed to pick him up and never even confirmed it with me. Carol winced. She said there was a misunderstanding. Mom, she put my name on official forms as the primary contact without asking me. I said, that's not a misunderstanding. That's signing me up to be a free third parent. She took a long sip of coffee, eyes on the family photos. Jenna is under a lot of pressure, she said softly. Mark works late. The kids are a handful. Money is tight. She's always been fragile. And I've always been what? I asked. Sturdy enough to carry her choices? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for my hand. Please don't make trouble, she whispered. We don't need agencies involved, or the school thinking poorly of her. Families keep these things private. Just talk to your sister and move on. What happens if she keeps doing it? I asked. What happens if next time the delivery driver doesn't see Max? Am I supposed to just show up when it's convenient for her and shut up when it's dangerous? Carol's fingers tightened around mine. If you love those children, you won't ruin their mother, she said. Jenna is trying her best. You airing her flaws will only hurt them. Nia's voice echoed in my head. If your family is rewriting the story in public, you need your own receipts. My notebook of dates and incidents suddenly felt like contraband. So my options are what? I said slowly. Stay quiet and keep rescuing, or speak up and be the villain? Carol pulled her hand back like I'd burned her. Sometimes, she said, being a good aunt means swallowing your pride. Sometimes being a daughter in this family meant swallowing myself whole. I left her house shaking, realizing silence might be more dangerous than drama. I didn't decide to confront Jenna all at once. It was more like my spine slowly growing in segments, one screenshot at a time. First, I printed out the emergency contact forms the school had on file. Ms. Cole, the counselor, slid them across her desk with an apologetic look. I can't advise you on family matters, she said, but I do recommend making sure everyone understands who is responsible. We worry about liability. My name stared back at me from every line that mattered. Then I scrolled through months of texts and took photos. Jenna telling friends Jenny's got them, in group chats I'd accidentally been left in, her Instagram story where she'd captioned a night out, so grateful for my built-in nanny, the voicemail from Lily, saved and replayed until my heart felt raw. Nia helped me organize everything into a folder on my laptop labeled babysitting receipts, because of course she did. You're not doing this to attack her, she reminded me. You're doing this to set boundaries and keep the kids safe. Intent matters. Tell that to my mother, I muttered. The plan, once I admitted I had one, was simple. A family meeting at Carol's house, all 4 adults present. Lay out the pattern calmly. Explain that I would no longer be on call, no longer the primary contact without my written consent. Offer reasonable, scheduled help instead. I texted Mark first, framing it as, we need to get on the same page so the school stops being confused. He replied with a wary, probably a good idea. When I messaged Jenna and Mom in the group chat, can we all meet Sunday at Mom's to talk about childcare stuff? There was a long, echoing silence. Finally, Jenna wrote, if this is about you playing martyr again, I'm not interested. It's about making sure the kids are never left in a risky situation, I replied. And about my name on legal documents. I think that deserves a conversation. Carol chimed in with, let's just talk like adults, which I knew really meant, don't raise your voice in front of the nice living room. I closed my phone and took a breath so deep it hurt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to show up just to fix things. I was going to show up with an agenda. I didn't realize Jenna was walking into that meeting already armed, too. Sunday afternoon, Carol's house looked like it always did before a storm. Too clean, too quiet. She'd put out a plate of cookies like this was a Bible study instead of a family reckoning. Mark sat on the edge of the couch, knees bouncing. Jenna scrolled aggressively on her phone. I took the armchair, my laptop on my knees like a shield. Thank you for coming. I started, because someone had to pretend this was civilized. I want to talk about childcare boundaries and some safety concerns. Jenna snorted. Here we go. I clicked open the folder and turned the screen so everyone could see. This is Lily's emergency contact form, I said. It lists me as primary. I never agreed to that. Same with Max's. According to the school, I'm the first person they call if anything goes wrong. So, Jenna said, arms crossed. Your family. You love them. I do, I said. Which is why I needed to be clear when I am actually responsible and when I'm not. Max wandered near the parking lot last week because no one came to pick him up. The school thought I was on my way. I had no idea. Mark's head snapped up. What? He asked, looking between us. You didn't tell me that part. It wasn't a big deal, Jenna said quickly. They overreacted. And Jenny's exaggerating like always. I pulled up my notes, scrolling to the entry. May 19th, I read. Counselor called about Max leaving after-school area. Jenna told them I was the pickup adult. I was doing inventory at work. Carol shifted in her chair. Sweetheart, maybe you should have been more flexible, she said. Sometimes things come up. Things always come up, I said, sharper than I meant to. That's the problem. You both rely on the assumption that I will drop everything, every time. Meanwhile, Jenna tells Facebook I abandoned them. I clicked to the screenshot of Jenna's sad selfie post. Her face flushed. Wow, she said. You're stalking my social media now? I'm showing you that you can't have it both ways, I said. You can't tell the world I'm unreliable while secretly making me legally responsible for your kids. What she said next made the entire room go painfully, dangerously still. Jenna leaned forward. You want to talk about having it both ways? She said. Fine. You parade around like Super Aunt, but the second anybody actually needs you, you throw a tantrum. Maybe the school thinks you're the parent because you act like it. My mouth opened, then closed. Mark rubbed his temples. Jenna, that's not fair, he muttered. She didn't know about the pickup. Carol's gaze ping-ponged between us, panic creeping into her expression. Please, she whispered. Let's not say things we can't take back. Too late, Jenna snapped. If Jenny wants her freedom so badly, she can have it. Take your name off the forms. Don't see the kids. Tell everyone I'm a horrible mother. I'll manage without your martyr complex. The kids, who had been watching a movie in the next room, peeked around the doorway. Lily's eyes were wide. Are you mad at Mom? She asked me quietly. Something in me broke. I'm mad at how the grown-ups are handling things, I said, forcing my voice steady. This isn't about you. Carol herded them back toward the TV, murmuring something about grown-up talk. When she returned, her face was set. If you make a scene with the school, she told me. If you go to anyone else about this, you will humiliate this family. I can't support that, Jenny. So you support the lying instead? I asked. You support her using my name to cover when she disappears? No one disappeared, Jenna scoffed. You're dramatizing everything because you want to feel important. I looked at my folder of dates and incidents and felt something in me go very still. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Tomorrow I'm telling the school that I am not the primary contact. They can keep me as a backup if I personally confirm it in writing. I will babysit only when we schedule it in advance. You can't do that, Carol breathed. Think of the children. I am thinking of them, I said. Kids deserve adults who know when they're actually on duty. Mark looked between our faces. Maybe formalizing things could help, he said weakly. Like a calendar. So there's no confusion. Jenna rounded on him. Whose side are you on? She demanded. He didn't answer. I left that day knowing our family would never look the same. In the weeks after the meeting, everything went eerily quiet. I emailed Ms. Cole and the front office, politely but firmly requesting that I be removed as primary emergency contact and listed only as a secondary with my explicit consent. I copied Jenna and Mark on the message so there'd be no confusion. I started saying, let me check my schedule and get back to you, instead of sure, whenever anyone hinted at needing help. Jenna responded by going nuclear. She unfriended me on every platform, posted vague quotes about family who betray you, and stopped bringing the kids to Carol's when she knew I'd be there. Carol, in turn, called to tell me how empty Sunday dinners felt without the little one's laughter, her voice thick with implication. It doesn't have to be this way, she said. If you'd just apologize, maybe Jenna would calm down. Apologize for what? I asked. For not wanting to be lied about and used? For how you spoke to her, Carol replied. You were very harsh. When I hung up, my hands were shaking again. But this time, I called a therapist instead of Nia. I found someone on my insurance who specialized in boundaries and family systems. Saying, I need help, to a stranger felt like the most rebellious thing I'd ever done. Week by week, the therapist helped me untangle the years of quiet parentification I'd normalized. You were drafted into a role you never consented to, she said. Now you're resigning. And of course the people benefiting are upset. I started small, turning my phone off after 10 p.m., not reading the family group chat first thing in the morning, planning outings that didn't revolve around anyone else's needs. When I did see the kids, short visits at the park, carefully arranged through Mark, they ran to me with the same bright smiles as always. Why can't you come over like before? Lily asked once, swinging from my arm. Because the grown-ups are figuring out new rules, I said gently. But I still love you just as much. Mark, awkward but sincere, eventually suggested a written schedule for babysitting, with set times and payment. It wasn't much, but it was the first time anyone in my family had treated my time like something that mattered. I didn't expect the real turning point to come from Jenna herself. Months later, Jenna texted me out of nowhere. Not an accusation, not a demand, just a picture of Lily and Max at the school talent show, both of them grinning gap-toothed on stage. Underneath, she wrote, "They asked if Aunt Jenny could come next time." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "I'd love to," I typed, "as long as we plan it. I'm not available last minute anymore." There was a pause, those 3 bouncing dots blinking like a heartbeat. Then, "Okay, I get it. We're not magically healed." Jenna still bristles when I say no. Carol still sighs like I personally tore up a script she'd been reciting her whole life. But things are different now. The school knows exactly who to call and when. The kids know I show up when I say I will, not when someone else volunteers me. More importantly, I know the difference between helping and being used. If you're watching this and feeling that familiar knot in your stomach because you're the responsible one, the built-in babysitter, the emergency contact for everyone but yourself, I want you to hear this. You are allowed to have a life that isn't shaped around other people's poor planning. Loving your family doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. These days, my apartment is quieter on weekends. I sleep in sometimes. I drink coffee while it's still hot and read books that have nothing to do with fixing anyone. When I do see Lily and Max, it's because I chose it, and I go home before the resentment starts whispering in my ear. Boundaries didn't make me lose my family. They just revealed who was willing to meet me halfway. Sometimes that's Jenna, trying in small, clumsy ways. Sometimes it's just Mark and the kids. Sometimes it's Nia and my therapist, and the quiet, stubborn piece of my own company. Either way, for the first time, I feel like the main character in my life instead of a side character in someone else's crisis. So the question I leave you with is painfully simple. Who owns your time?